The drug maker Mylan is under fire for dramatically hiking the price of a device called the EpiPen. Now, the price went from $100 to $600 since Mylan acquired the rights to the device in 2007. The company launching a generic version after the brouhaha. It'll cost about $300. Still, though, a 300% price hike. And Mylan's not alone here. Remember this guy? Martin Shkreli, CEO of Touring Pharmaceuticals, when it hiked the price of a malaria drug to $750 a pill from just $13 because he said he could. Now the question is, should the government step in and control drug prices? I know where to go for an argument for this. Mark, you don't like the nanny state, you don't like the government telling people what to do. But let me ask you something. If you're the only game in town, you know the cost per unit is X, and you're hiking it 600%, 1,300%, whatever the case is, just because you can, and people can't afford a drug to save their life. We do have regulations. If I follow the logic, let any drugs go to market and let the market work its way. But we've decided we have the federal government to have a role to make sure it has to be safe. Why can't, in this particular case, we let people make a healthy profit, but not to the point where you price out people and they die?
Well, I think that the government could certainly try to regulate it, and I think they would be well within their rights to try and do so. I mean,
regulate price?
Well, regulate price is a step beyond anything that actually directly regulating the price is a step beyond anything the Supreme Court has approved.
How about representing a max profit margin?
Well, they've always put, in times of war, for example, back with the wheat restrictions in the 40s, the Supreme Court upheld it under the Commerce Clause, price and quota restrictions during times of trouble. You know, the problem is, functionally, this is not going to happen because of the pharmaceutical lobby, the powerful pharmaceutical lobby in Congress.
You're right from a practical standpoint, but Mark, and I understand who shall decide.
The profit-making motive is the incentive to develop more innovative drugs.
I remember after Sandy, we prosecuted gas stations when they were gouging people because they could charge whatever they wanted for gas because there was limited supply.
I think
if we can do that, why can't you do that
I think that the government could well try to do that. It would be beyond what happened in the case that I'm referring to, Wickard versus Filburn. There'd be catcalls from the private sector because if you're stamping out the profit margin, you're stamping out and stifling innovation. But I think they could try. It would be subject to vigorous challenge from the private sector, and it's a step beyond anything that's been approved before. But it's a logical extension of Wickard versus Filburn, the case.
You guys be comfortable if they said, "We'll let you can max out at 100% markup over a 10-year window or something, unless you show the cost of the product went up so high to produce." Put in the justifications you want. To me, you know, I heard people with a horror story saying, "We can't afford this. If I don't get the EpiPen, my son, my brother, my father, they die."
Yeah, I think it's one of those where, you know, in theory it sounds like don't put any marketing conditions, you know, let market to determine what price it is. But then when you hear the stories and you think about the people who really need it and who could die as a result of not having it and the expense, you're thinking about the little kids that are involved who can't afford to get it and they might die as a result. I think the public is on the side of putting in some sort of price controls on it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of playing around with people's health for the profit motive. I mean, there's, like Scalia said, there's an originalism and then there's nuts.
Yeah.
Right? Nuts. And Trump said this to his credit in the debates. Remember, he was being attacked by Rubio and by Cruz simultaneously. Are you a Republican? Are you not a Republican? And he said, you know, basically, read my lips. People will not die on my watch. Sometimes you have to put principle aside. And what's more fundamental than people's health?
But right now, it's left to the public or news agencies, then the public to have an outcry, to go after the Shkrelis, to go after the Mylans. It's only after the fact that the government responds. It's not, if there isn't a hue and cry, they don't get involved.
Right. Well, I mean, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. So you have taxpayers funding Medicare and Medicaid. Now you have the government involved with the health exchanges. So what happens is that if these drugs are not accessible to people and people get sicker, that affects all of the healthcare costs and premiums across the board. So it's going to affect taxpayers and the government. So if the government's now in the business of regulating the healthcare industry, like you said, the best option would be putting a cap on profit margin so that there's still, like Mark said, that incentive to go out and develop, and also maybe trying to mandate some of these people to put some of the money back into research. That's a requirement. You can make X amount of money, but you also have to fund research. I don't want to tell somebody how to run their business, but my only point is, you know, I'm a capitalist too. But if somebody says you can only make 100% profit over a 12 or 24-month period, I can live with that, you know? So I don't think that I'm
calling for socialism here.
And you're not in the
That's what you're
business,
gonna hear in
and you're not
response.
in the business of public health either. So when you stop and you look at it, you can't say to Con Edison, just charge whatever you want, because
Right.
lots of people have no power. So there's a reason that they are a utility, and utilities receive the same, that monopoly status. Here we're talking about public health. So when you start to look at it, there's a compelling public interest in people being healthy. Suppose they come up with a drug that prevents Ebola and half the people can't afford it. Well, guess what? Then you're no longer protected because these people are not going to get that
Yep.
drug.
And I got to hit a break here. It'll be interesting how
like
long.
Roberts did the same rationale that Amy and Mayo are espousing that was used to uphold Obamacare in the first instance. You know, be careful. It could be.
Larry
you
is
could tax
yelling at me because I'm supposed to go to a break here. Now, coming up next, whatever happened to 3 strikes and you're out? Well, singer Chris Brown in trouble with the law again. Will his prior incidents, or should his prior incidents and arrest impact his latest case?